Hello team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prab, and today we have a special coffees on Domain 6 assessment, which is called as a security assessment of Domain 6 of CISSP. If you're new to this channel, do subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive the updates. My name is Prab Nair. For more information, you can refer my LinkedIn profile. Let's start with the first coffee dose. Thank you. Okay, so first coffee shot. What is the primary benefit you're talking about security consultant will achieve from a security assessment results? Okay, the question talking about what is the ultimate goal we get, or what is the primary benefit from conducting a security assessment and their associate results. Option A, determination of a security control effectiveness. Option B, unpatched vulnerability discovered. Option C, attacker pattern. Option D, organization is compliance with the ISO standard. I would like to exclude D because we don't do assessment only from a ISO point of view, because we have several legal, regulatories and other parameters also. So going with the ISO standard is not something my primary thing, so that is removed. Attacker pattern, yes, we would like, so we basically conduct the assessment, think like an attacker and see how secure and how vulnerable it is. Definitely I can park this option. Not necessary we only exploit the unpatched vulnerability. After deploying the patch, we perform this assessment, so I'm eliminating this. So we're left with 1 and 2. 1 saying the determination of a security control effectiveness. Definitely after patching a system, deploying the controls, checking the effectiveness of the control and include the system behind the control, all those things can be covered. So that is why I'm going with the answer 1, determination of a security control effectiveness. That is the ultimate goal, or that is a primary benefit we get from the results. And based on that, we try to improve the control, because controls are there to protect the organization from all kind of a risk. So if you take example of ISO assessment, internal audits, what they check whether control in place. So that is why any question talking about ultimate goal of a security assessment or assessment results, answer is determination of a security control effectiveness, whether it is working effectively or not. Firewall, you implement with the specific rule. How we test, we perform some kind of an attack and see can we able to bypass this firewall or not. If we able to bypass the firewall, it means the firewall control is ineffective, and by this way we get to know how secure is my organization. So by this way we achieve both hacker perspective also and control effectiveness also. That is why I'm going with the answer A. Let's move to the next coffee shot. Okay, it's a very good coffee. Before initiating a penetration testing, it means we have not started. It's more like a due diligence against the critical server, which has a dependency on the business and also network. What is the most important thing to be reviewed so that it does not impact the organization? It means the intent of the question here is that before conducting or initiating a PT, what is the homework we have to do? What is the due diligence we need to check? Because we are talking about pre-check, because we're going to test the critical server, which might impact the business. Option A, penetration testing should be performed only after the careful consideration. That is true. Like what is a scope and everything, we notify the affected party, and according to that we plan, which include the NDA signing, scoping, selection of our tools, techniques, methodology and all that, which must be done before implementing. That's true. Option B, penetration testing often include non-technical method of attack. It is not true, because it covers both and it has no connect with the critical server. We're talking about what is a pre-check we do before testing a critical server. So B has no connect with the question. So B is eliminate. C say penetration should be performed only on external server. It is not true. We do the testing internal and we do the testing external. So C removed. Review industry standard and compliance requirement. That is true, but PTs only do for that. That is not really a requirement, because we can do the assessment on a regular basis used to achieve the compliance. And somehow D is a part of A, because when you're talking about review standards and compliance requirement, that is a part of a consideration. Let's take an example. You have some web servers, or you have some application server behind the DMZ. So before testing those, we will check whether systems are compliant with their requirement or not. So that is part of a consideration, but only reviewing the standard and doing the assessment, that is not a most important thing. That is why I'm going with the answer A for alpha. that penetration testing should be performed only after the careful consideration where we NDA signing, scoping need to be done, notifying the concerned party that this kind of an assessment need to be performed, and we also go for the planning. So let's move to the next coffee shot. Okay, so next coffee shot. What is the greatest advantage of conducting regularly network vulnerability scanning and PT? The thin line difference between the VA and PT is that suppose this is the system we have. So vulnerability assessment is all about identifying the vulnerability in the system. But when you're talking about the PT not only exploiting a vulnerability but penetrate into the system. So it is more aggressive. And the question talking about what is the greatest advantage we have. Option A, prevent many type of attack and reduce the potential impact of successful one, which is actually true. By doing a regular testing, we will ensure the system is protected from all kind of an attack. Option B, penetration testing often include non-technical method of attack. It is not true because we cover both, so B removed. That is not a reason. Review industry standard and compliance requirement. See, that is by doing a VAPT, we can able to comply with the standard and compliance requirement, but that is not only the primary requirement. And unpatched vulnerability discover, yes, that can be also identified, but D is somehow part of the A. By doing a regular VAPT, you can able to protect the organization from all kind of an attacks and be proactively identifying new emerging threats and vulnerability within the organization. That is why I'm going with the answer A. So let's move to the next coffee. So question is, what is the most critical prerequisite before performing a vulnerability assessment? It's a very critical question. What is the most critical prerequisite? I mean, before even conducting a vulnerability assessment, what is a primary thing is required? Option A, system classification. We need to know what is classified, what is critical, non-sensitive. We need to know the configuration of a system, but it is not something of most critical because sometimes VAPT we perform on the black box. In that case, we don't have access to the system configuration. So B is removed. Asset inventory, that is true because we do the VAPT against the list of assets. We can park. BIA result only talk about what is critical and what is not. But we don't use always BIA. BIA is somehow used in the case of DR planning and all that, by which we can able to restore the services. And somehow BIA details will be updated in the asset inventory. So without having a list of asset, you can't perform the VAPT because we will perform a VAPT against the asset. So you should know the value of asset, who is the owner and all that. So answer is C for Charlie. Asset inventory is the prerequisite of the vulnerability assessment and PT. Because without having an inventory of asset, we cannot do that. And BIA talk about what is critical and how to prioritize. So that has no connect with the VAPT. Thank you. So let's move to the next coffee shot. Okay, it's a good coffee. The question talking about which test is most suitable for the situation where we have a complete knowledge of a system or network, like IP address, system version numbers, details and everything. So question talking about complete knowledge. The keyword is complete knowledge. In a black box, we have no visibility about the target. If I'm testing any web server, they don't even share the IP. We have no idea about what we are testing. We have to start from a scratch and gather the information. It is same like a Pepsi bottle. It is black. You can't see inside what is they have mixed. But in a white box, we have a complete information about the target. We just need to perform the vulnerability scan and further penetration. Gray box is somehow the combination of black and white, where we have a basic detail about the system, IP address and all that, but not a complete system. So 3 is removed, and 4, there's nothing called as a red box. So it looked like the question has a keyword called complete knowledge of the system, and that is why I'm going with the answer white box, where we have access to the source code, we have a complete access of the system configuration, versions and everything. We just need to perform the next level assessment, which is called as a vulnerability assessment in PT. That's why the answer is white box. Let's move to the next coffee shot. Thank you. Okay, so customer has asked for an external penetration test for a compliance purpose. So they want to perform some PT for the compliance purpose. During the conversation between the client and security consultant, The customer showed concern about adding the consultant system IP in the approved list of firewall for the test duration. Normally what happens when you're conducting any assessment, we request them to add this IP, so it should not block that firewall, because here objective is to perform the internal assessment. Which of the following is the best reason as to why security consultant source IP should be whitelisted? Two keywords are there. Ask for the external PT. It means from the external we need to conduct PT to understand what is the possible threats we have. Is any way we can able to penetrate into the firewall, and from there we can able to enter into the internal network. The question talking about which of the following is the best reason why security consultant source IP, because attack is initiating from the client consultant IP, and that why it should be whitelisted. Option A, firewall prevent DOS attack against supporting log monitoring system. Question talking about why we need to add IP. What is the best reason for adding IP? And A is completely opposite of that. Because by not adding IP, we can able to protect against DOS attack if such kind of a package is coming. So A is removed. Option B, external testing against a firewall required extra paperwork and authorization, which may cause time sensitive. That is true. Whenever we requesting to add any IP in ports, we need to go through the paperwork and all that, but that is something manageable. They're saying that what is the best reason? When you are a consultant, what is the best reason you can give? Third, to keep the current firewall rule need periodic modifications due to continuing growing vulnerability and newly found flaws. Here my question is not to test the firewall. We just want this IP to be added. Yes, when we adding the IP, we also test the firewall, and we also testing the internal systems. But if you can see D, testing should focus on discovery of the possible security issues across all in scope system, not on a focus on the relative effectiveness of the active defense such as firewall. Exactly. See, we just want in this firewall IP to be added, so attacker can able to perform further attack and able to access the internal system. From there he can able to perform the further attack. By just blocking such IPs will not able to achieve the defined objectives. And my objective is not to test this defense. My objective is to test this particular area. That is why I'm going with the answer D. D for Delta. Okay. Let's move to the next coffee shot. So security consultant conducted a detailed penetration test of ABC limited network and some critical application. Consultant discovered a vulnerability in the application which is used for TLS on the company intranet wide financial web application during the testing. Unfortunately, the application provider has not issued any patch for the same vulnerability. It means they discovered some vulnerability in the application which is used for TLS. And concern here is that application provider has no patch for that. So which of the following measure would be the most effective in mitigating a risk of impact? See, now as a consultant, okay, patch is not available from the vendor. We need to protect that application from further attack. That application is also very critical because that is a financial web application. So what is the way to reduce the impact? Option A, modify the web server configuration to use stronger encryption, hashing and digital signing solution. Question talking about how to mitigate the existing issue, how to mitigate the impact. They're talking on modifying directly the server configuration. For the stronger encryption makes sense, but why hashing? So A, removed. Implement a new training to be aware of the risk in assessing the application, but that will not able to achieve my existing risk. So B, removed. Implement a new rule in the application firewall to restrict access to the application. Reopen the application to company staff after vulnerability is patched, which look very accurate. We am parking this option. Patching of the vulnerability, implement another password change. But here the problem is that patching is not available. So only thing is that update that signature in the firewall here, which is behind the the application which is behind the firewall. So on the firewall we can update the signature. That is the one thing we can do until unless the patch is not available from the vendor. So that is the only way we can able to mitigate the current impact. That's why I'm going with the answer C. So implement the new rule in the firewall, disable the ports, disable the request on that particular server until we getting a patch from the vendor. That is the only accurate option which address this problem immediately, which is called as a compensating control. So let's move to the next coffee shot. So what is the greatest benefit of using a repeatable and approved documented security assessment methodology in the organization for a testing. I repeat my question again. What is the greatest benefit of using repeatable and approved documented assessment methodology? See, if it's approved, it lead to a good governance, because we already rectify all the issues, and based on that we build this framework. So using the repeatable and approved document security assessment methodology can save time. That is my reasoning. So let's go by the option, the greatest benefit. Option A, decrease time required to conduct the assessment. That is true. And the need to purchase testing equipment, but it has no connect with the process, right? So A removed, because they're talking about purchase testing equipment and software and reduce the overall assessment cost, which is not true. We're just talking about why we need to reuse the methodology, which talk about the process. It has no connect with the testing equipment and all that. So A removed. Option B, expedites the transition of a new assessment staff. That is actually true. Okay, but we don't use the same methodology from the new assessment or staff point of view. So B removed. Option C, address resource constraint associated with the security assessment. Definitely, if you're using an old assessment, with the help of that, we can able to use the old tools and all that. That is a advantage we have, but that is not a primary benefit, or that is not a greatest benefit. Option D is provide consistency and structure to security testing, which can minimize the testing risk. That is true, because it's already trial and tested process. Using a same and same again and again can able to save time and able to provide the consistency. Example, I have a checklist and I follow checklist every day. So by having a standard checklist, I can able to save time. That is why the answer is D. D for Delta. So let's move to the next coffee shot. Okay. Which of the following is the significant limitation? Question talking limitation with the using of vulnerability scanner in the organization. When you go for the vulnerability scanner, they are more like a automation tool which using the signatures and test against the systems. So they're talking about what is the limitation. So option A, rely on the repository of update frequency signatures. Option B, labor intensive activity that require high degree of human involvement. Actually, it is not true, because by running the automation VA tools, you just run it and you can do your work. It will scan the entire system. On the report part, we need to verify. So there we need a manual testing, but that is not a labor intensive testing activity. So B is basically removed. Slow the overall scanning process. That is happen with all the tools. So that is not a significant limitation. D is vulnerability scanner typically have a high false positive rates. That is also true. That is also true. So A and D look very similar, but even the false positive rates can be able to verify by the manual reports. But biggest concern is that based on the signatures only, they're trying to identify the bugs and everything. If signature is not updated, they will not able to discover the things. And that is a more concern for us. So that is the primary limitation we have with the vulnerability scanning. That's why I'm going with the answer A. So let's move to the next coffee shot. Okay, drag and drop. So they're talking about arrange in a sequence the penetration testing phases. One thing you need to remember in CISSP, they refer the penetration testing steps based on the NIST. So here we have 4 steps. Option A, discovery, reporting, planning and attack. So we need to arrange in the sequence. So whenever we initiating a PT and all that, the first thing we called as a planning. Okay, in the planning we talk about rule of engagement need to be signed, scope of testing need to be defined. So all those things will be done in the planning stage. The second is called as a discovery, where we performing a scanning, IP address, discovery, vulnerability analysis, vulnerability scan, everything will be done. Then we have a attack. Hurt is the main important. Attack is the main hurt of PT, you can say. Here we exploiting those vulnerability that we have discovered during a discovery stage, because in a discovery we discovering the network scan, we discovering the port scan, we discovering the vulnerabilities, and all those going to be validated in the third stage, which is called as an attack. Okay, and then we basically prepare the report is basically happening in all the phases. So any question talking about reporting happen which phase? Reporting happen in all the phases. If you fail to do planning, it can impact all the things. So make sure in the planning stage we capture all the details. During a discovery, if we fail to discover anything, it directly impact the attack phase also. But reporting is something which is happening all the phase. That is why this is the sequence you need to remember. For more information, you can refer the NIST document. So let's move to the next coffee shot. So we need to arrange the sequence of the security assessment process. So here they're talking about prioritization and scheduling assessment, selecting and customizing a technical testing and examination technique, developing the assessment plan, addressing any legal consideration, developing a security assessment policy, and determining the logistics of the assessment. So question talking about drag and drop. So arranging the sequence. So first step is develop the policy. Any kind of a system you want to initiate, any kind of a process you want to initiate in the organization, the first thing we need a policy, because policy is the foundation of a governance. And here in a security assessment, we're talking about the governance. So first step is develop the policy. Second is prioritize and schedule the assessment. What is your need? Because it is not possible to perform the assessment in end-to-end in the organization. So we need to prioritize based on an impact, and according to that we need to schedule, because we need to take up business approvals. Then we selecting and customizing a technical testing and examination technique, how we need to perform, how we need to conduct the assessment. Then we need to determine the logistics, if it's basically cross country, within the city, travel arrangement, hotels, because according to the consultant we need to plan this. And then we prepare the complete assessment plan. Okay, assessment plan include the type of test, scoping, everything after finalizing the logistic, because in the assessment plan we need to tell about the consultant who going to assess, but any kind of challenges from a legal aspect need to be addressed in the assessment plan phase itself. So this is how the sequence of the security assessment process we have. Team, if you find this video useful, do share in your network, do subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also click on the bell icon so receive the update about the new videos. Thank you so much.